Good evening. I would like to welcome you to the August 23rd, 2022 meeting of the City Plan Commission. Before we begin, I'll outline the procedure that we will follow for our public hearing. As each agenda item is called, the applicant or his or her representatives and persons for the request will be allowed to speak. Then persons against the request will be allowed to speak. If there is opposition to the request, the applicant will be allowed to make a short rebuttal. All persons wishing to speak need to come to the microphone at the front of the room. Please state your name and address for the record. All statements made should be relevant to the agenda item and be limited to 3 minutes. If there are several persons in favor of or opposed to a request, we encourage you to allow 1 or 2 persons to act as spokesperson for the group. If you like, a spokesperson for the group may request that the group stand and be recognized. While public discourse is very important to the Commission, we have to maintain order in the meeting so that all persons may be heard and city business may be conducted. If so directed by me, the Sergeant at Arms shall remove from this meeting any person while addressing the Commission or while attending the Commission meeting making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, who becomes boisterous, or making unauthorized remarks from the audience, stomping of feet, whistles, yells, or similar demonstrations. The Commission members have reviewed each of these items in a previous work session. The recommendations we make tonight to the City Council will be based on the work session and the information provided by staff, as well as any additional information presented tonight. After completing the hearing on each item, the Commission will consider action on the item. The action taken tonight on these items will be in the form of a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council will also conduct a hearing on these items, which will be held Tuesday, September 20th, 2022, in the Bosque Theater of the Waco Convention Center, 100 Washington Avenue. The record and recommendation of the Plan Commission and new testimony will be considered by the Council at that time. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our July 26th, 2022 work session and business meetings. Are there any changes or additions? Seeing none, they stand approved as written. We'll get started with our subdivision plats. What are the first items that we'll be taking up for this evening?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I want to split these up into the 4 that we're recommending for approval, and then the 3 that we're recommending approval with conditions. So the first public hearing is a public hearing to consider the following subdivision plats. 1 preliminary plat of the M&M Industrial Park Edition. 2 final plat and construction plans of the Church Road Estates Edition Phase 1. Final plat and construction plans of the Keys on the Brazos Edition. And final plat and construction plans of the Copper Springs Edition Phase 3. Staff has reviewed these plats and recommends approval.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing on these plats. Are the applicants or his or her representative here to speak at all tonight? Is anyone here to speak in opposition to any of these plats? Okay, we will close the public hearing. On these plat items, we have a recommendation of straight approval by city staff, and we will entertain a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on items 1, 3, 4, and 7, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ramos, second by Mr. Lane. Do we have any final discussion? Motion of approval, excuse me. Please poll the commission.
Browse.
Yes.
Briscoe.
Yes.
Cole. Oh, I'm sorry. Embry.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Jefferson.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
What is the remainder of our plats and city recommendation on these?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. The following plats are recommended for approval with conditions. Preliminary plat of the Prairie View Estates Edition, which is ETJ. Final plat and construction plans of Park Meadow South Edition Phase 3. And then final plat and construction plans of Castle Rock Edition Phase 1.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. We have to backtrack. I did not call Mr. Fajardo's name on the previous motion.
Oh, okay.
Fajardo.
Yes.
I apologize.
So y'all, did you complete your read through? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll open our public hearing for item subdivision items 2, 5, and 6. Are the applicants or his or her representatives here to speak tonight? Is anyone here to speak in opposition on these items? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We have a recommendation of approval with conditions from city staff on items 2, 5, and 6, and we will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to recommend that we approve these based on staff conditions and findings.
Second.
Second by motion by Ms. Briscoe, second by Ms. Reynolds. Do we have any final discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse,
Yes.
Briscoe,
Yes.
Embry,
Yes.
Fajardo,
Yes.
Harris, Jefferson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Reynolds.
All right. In the case of H-22-1, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from Dr. and Mrs. Henry Boehm III on property located at 200 Castle Avenue for a historic landmark designation. We mailed out 18 notices on this one and had 0 return. Planning Services recommends approval of the request of a historic landmark designation based on the following findings. 1 is located within the Castle Heights National Register Historic District. 2 is designated as a Priority 1 structure in the local survey of historic properties adopted by the Waco City Council. 3 is associated with the lives of persons of significant local, regional, state, national, or international history. 4 embodies the distinctive characteristics of a Tudor revival style residence associated with early 20th century architecture. And 5, that represents the work of a master designer, builder, or craftsman, which is architect Birch D. Easterwood. This also comes to you with a recommendation from our Historic Landmark Commission.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? Okay. Is anyone else here to speak in favor on the item? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the item? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We have a recommendation of approval from city staff for the landmark designation, and we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend approval based on staff findings.
We have a motion for approval by Mr. Browse, second by Ms. Reynolds. Any discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse,
Yes.
Briscoe,
Yes.
Embry,
Yes.
Fajardo, Harris,
Yes.
Jefferson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Reynolds.
In the case of Z-22-50, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from Catalyst Urban Waco Development 2 LLC and City of Waco for approval of a final PUD plan for a plan unit development known as the Brazos Promenade PUD and more recently referred to as a Riverfront Waco PUD. The PUD is located along both sides of South University Parks Drive between Jackson Avenue and Clay Avenue, and the property is described as lots 1 through 4, 11A, 11B, 12B, 13B, 14B, 15, and 16, Block 24, Original City, Taylor and Beale, and .1607 acres of abandoned alley for a total of 2.5312 acres, land account improvement only on property ID 410276, known as 400 South 2nd Street land, property ID 184353, City Commons Lot, all river frontage, and 1.257 acres of abandoned road, Block 1, 2, 3, and Z, 10.0982 acres, S&E 0.3188 acres of lease tract, property ID 318569, known as 400 South University Parks Drive-500, property ID 168436, Lot 15, Block 23, Original City, Taylor and Beale, 1.2052 acres, known as 414 South University Parks Drive, rear land, property ID 184351, Lot 1, 2, and 0.023 acres of abandoned alley, Block 24, Original City in Taylor and Beale, 0.4018 acres, known as 400 South 2nd Street, with property ID 184353, Lot 1, Block 32, Original City, Taylor and Beale, 0.1894 acres, known as 503 River Street, with property ID 184391. Lots 2 through 7, Block 33, Original City, Taylor and Bale, known as River Street, and approximately 2.04 acres more or less out of the property described as Lot 5 through 6, Block 1, University Parks Edition, 6.554 acres, formerly Brazos Place condo, known as 522 South University Parks Drive, with property ID 194021. Planning Services recommends, we mailed out 17 notices on this request and had 0 returned. Planning Services recommends approval of the final PUD based on the following findings and condition. Findings are: 1, the final PUD plan is consistent with the approved concept PUD plan, conditions of the approved concept PUD plan, and the requirements of the PUD ordinance. 2, the circulation plan, public facilities plan, and services plan, preliminary architectural plan, and site development and landscaping plan included in the final PUD plan are adequate. And 3, the proposal for the maintenance of common open space included within the PUD is adequate. The conditions are: 1, at time of development, full building plans must be submitted meeting all City of Waco development requirements, including but not limited to the following: applicable building codes, site grading and drainage, parking, signage, vehicle pedestrian access and circulation, landscaping, refuse location and access, and fire protection location and access. Building permits will not be issued until full compliance with all development standards of the City of Waco and the approved PUD plans. And 2, the property must be platted meeting requirements of the PUD and subdivision ordinance before the final issuance of certificate of occupancies.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor on this item tonight? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this item tonight? Okay, we'll close our public hearing. We'll open it for a motion. We have a recommendation of approval with conditions by city staff.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval for this final PUD based upon staff's finding.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ramos, second by Ms. Briscoe. Do we have any final discussion before we vote? Please poll the commission.
Browse?
Yes.
Briscoe?
Yes.
Embry? Yes. Fajardo?
Yes.
Harris? Yes. Jefferson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
In the case of Z-22-51, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, this is a public hearing and request from Charles Merritt on behalf of Bearland 22 LLC for property at 228 South 8th Street to rezone from M2 to C4. We mailed out 14 notices and had 0 returned on this request. Planning Services recommends approval of this request to change the zoning from M2 to C4 based on the following findings. 1, the proposed zoning is in conformance with the land use component of the comprehensive plan and the Imagine Waco, a plan for greater downtown. 2, the existing public infrastructure is adequate to provide for uses allowed in the C4 zoning district. 3, the area has been transitioning from industrial uses to commercial mixed uses over the past several decades. And 4, there is C4 zoning adjacent to and across the street from the subject property.
We'll open our public hearing on this item. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? Is anyone else here to speak in favor on this item? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? We'll close our public hearing. We have a recommendation of approval from city staff, and we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve based on staff findings.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Reynolds, and I'm sorry I didn't catch you, and second by Mr. Fajardo. Any final discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse?
Yes.
Briscoe?
Yes.
Embry?
Yes.
Fajardo?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Jefferson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
In the case of Z-22-52, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from Valentin Lopez for property at 3308 Pewitt Drive to rezone from R1B to R2. We mailed out 39 notices and had 0 returned on this request. Planning Services recommends approval of this request to change the zoning from R1B to R2 based on the following findings. 1, the proposed zoning is in conformance with the land use component of the comprehensive plan. 2, the property meets all the area and width requirements for the R2 zoning district. 3, the existing public infrastructure is adequate to provide for uses allowed in the R2 zoning district, and 4, there is R2 zoning in the vicinity of the subject property.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor on the item? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the item? Okay, we'll close our public hearing. We have a recommendation of approval by city staff. We will entertain a motion.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve based on staff findings.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Briscoe, second by Mr. Lane. Any final discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse,
Yes.
Briscoe,
Yes.
Embry. Yes. Fajardo.
Yes.
Harris,
No.
Jefferson,
No.
Lane,
Yes.
Ramos,
No.
and Reynolds.
Yes.
In the case of Z-22-53, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from Central Alcoholic Foundation, Inc. for property at 1618 and 1628 Lyle Avenue for the renewal of special permit for Transitional Shelter 2 in an O3 district. We mailed out 34 notices and had 0 returned on this request. Planning Services recommends approval of the special permit renewal subject to the special provisions and conditions and based on the following findings. 1, that the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, that the proposed use is compatible with the appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it is located. 3, that the proposed use would not be more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics than any use permitted in the zoning district without the grant of a special exception. And 4, that available community facilities and services are adequate for the proposed use. These findings are required for the granting of a special permit as per section 28-122 of the City of Waco zoning ordinance.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? If you'd like, you can come down, state your name and address, if you'd like to make any comments.
Well, I mean, I can answer any questions that
Sure.
My name is Jason Lanier, and I live in Hewitt, Texas, and the property address is 1628 Lyle. It's been in existence as a recovery house since the 70s, and just hoping to, for the last 5 years, we've been on renovation. It was a big undertaking. So hoping to be able to renew this permit and be able to put it back in the use of what it was originally intended. So
Awesome.
that's all. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? All right. Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor on this item? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We have a recommendation of approval from city staff. Unless we have further discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the special permit.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Reynolds, second by Ms. Jefferson. Any final discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse,
Yes.
Briscoe,
Yes.
Embry. Yes. Fajardo,
Yes.
Harris. Yes. Jefferson. Lane,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
and Reynolds.
Yes.
In the case of Z-22-54, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from Carly Linehan on behalf of Skyway Holdings LLC for property at 1029 North Loop Drive for the renewal of a special permit for a contractor's shop in a C3 zoning district. We mailed out 24 notices and had 0 returned on this request. Planning Services recommends approval of the renewal of the special permit subject to special provisions and conditions and based on the findings required for the granting of a special permit as per section 28-122 of the City of Waco zoning ordinance that were previously read on record. And I did want to point out that Plan Commission member Embry has filled out an affidavit of substantial interest.
Thank you. We will open our public hearing. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? Is anyone else here to speak in favor on this item? Is anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Before we close the public hearing,
staff's recommendation is actually, I misread the recommendation on record. Our recommendation for this specific special permit renewal is to continue it to the following Plan Commission meeting. Do you have that date? I believe it's Tuesday, September 27th is what our recommendation is. The initial special permit that was granted for this request had some conditions that were recommended by City Council. We have not seen evidence that some of those conditions have been met, and so prior to moving forward, we are recommending a continuance.
thank you. Given that, we will leave the public hearing open. As Ms. Warden just said, we have a recommendation actually to continue this item to our following meeting pending fulfillment of some items from the initial special permit. And so we will, unless we have further discussion, we'll entertain a motion on this item.
I actually do have a question, Mr. Chairman. For the city, will this affect the current tenant's ability to use the land pending the continuance till next month?
No, it won't. We'll allow the continuance of the use of the property the way it's being used right now.
Okay.
I can make a motion to recommend continuance.
Second.
Motion for a continuance on this item until our next meeting by Mr. Ramos and a second by Mr. Lane. Any final discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse?
Yes.
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 Harris?
Yes?
Jefferson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
And Reynolds?
Yes.
All right, in the case of Z-22-55, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from Janet Vega Ruiz on behalf of Los Compadres at property located at 2505 Lyle Avenue for a special permit to extend the hours of operation and allow food truck sales between the hours of 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. in an O3 zoning district. City staff mailed out 36 notices, had 0 returned, but did receive 1 phone call in opposition from a neighbor for the request. Planning Services recommends approval of the special permit, subject to special provisions and conditions, and based on the findings required for the granting of a special permit, as per Section 28-122 of the City of Waco zoning ordinance that were previously read on record. And I did want to highlight that the applicant requested an extension to 11 p.m., but city staff is recommending that the permit shall allow food truck sales until 9 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday and until 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, and that's included in the special provisions and conditions that are in your packets.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing on this item. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? If you would like, please come on down and state your name and address.
My name is Dolores Garcia Pina. I am representing Janet Vega for the language barrier. So we applied for the extended hours. There is another taco or food truck 5 blocks down on 2020 North 25th that is open from Sunday to Thursday all the way to 10 p.m. and Friday and Saturday to 11 p.m. Our business will not be having any outdoor seating. They do. It would be everything to go. So it wouldn't cause any kind of disruptions with people actually, or customers engaging in any kind of other activity other than just picking up their food. So I was requesting for Friday and Saturday at least to 11 p.m. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, ma'am, sorry, before you leave. Do you have any issue with the 9 p.m. from Sunday to Thursday?
No,
Which is-
that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just Friday and Saturday are the most busy for any kind of food business.
I got a question. Is that in
Yes,
the
sir.
the food truck you mentioned, 5 blocks down? That's the one in the parking lot of the convenience store, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just the other question was, have you had a chance to talk with the neighbors adjacent to the?
Yes,
the
I
property?
actually, I went and got the signatures from them and everything was okay. They were kind of glad that there was going to be something nearby for them to get food, fast food. We do have neighbors that don't really like the business. We established in 2004, and we really haven't had any other issues other than some specific neighbors just having issues, personal issues, I guess. But other than that, it's been running since 2004 as a beauty salon / barber shop. And just, there's a big parking lot, so it's the corner that we're running out.
That's what I was gonna ask. You don't have any issues with parking? I know you.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
It's 0.49 of an acre. The main business is in the back, and we have a very large parking lot. It fits about 18 cars. And it has an entrance on 25th Street, and then on the Lyle. So it has 2 entrances. So we don't really have an issue with parking at all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
You talked to the neighbors, you said? And you
Yes,
got-
sir. I collect the signatures from them.
Did you specifically bring up the 11 PM?
And not specifically, we
So they're
did say till late, but then I didn't specify how late, just because we were in the planning process of all this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Question is, can I ask a question to staff? Okay, so if we do extend this to 11 PM, that's only for a year, that to see if there's any kind of commotion or anything that goes on within that year time frame?
Correct. So we have a list of special provisions and conditions. There's a total of 13 conditions. I just highlighted the limited hours of operation that staff was recommending for approval, but it also comes with a limitation of a 1-year permit for the special permit to allow the extended hours. And so if they want to continue operating past 7 PM, which is allowed in the O3 zoning district, they would have to renew their special permit in a year.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone else here to speak in favor on this item? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? Okay, we will close our public hearing. We have a recommendation of approval of the special permit request, albeit with some additional conditions. And we will open up for discussion or a motion on the item.
Actually, I have a question for city staff. Can you guys remind me, the property or the food truck that is in existence currently that's down the way, what is immediately in that surrounding area? Is there any residential or is it more commercial?
You have a convenience store, gas station next to it on one side, and then there's some, I believe, I'm just going off memory, some vacant lots and some office buildings.
Okay, so
On
it
that.
doesn't back up to residential
So
properties in the
there are
same
some
way?
residential that backs up to it. There's
Okay.
a street behind it, and then there's some residential that backs up to it, and then across the street you have the St. Louis church.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the special permit with the conditions of 9 PM closure on Sunday through Thursday, and then 11 PM Friday and Saturday.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lane and a second by Ms. Reynolds for approval of the special permit adjusting the hours of operation from Sunday to Thursday being able to be open till 9 PM, and then Friday and Saturday being able to be open till 11 PM. Do we have any additional discussion on that? Okay, we'll entertain, or we will please poll the commission.
Browse,
Yes.
Briscoe,
Yes.
Embry, Yes. Fajardo,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Jefferson, Lane, Ramos,
Yes.
and Reynolds.
Yes.
In the case of Annex-22-3, what is the recommendation of city staff?
Sir, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on request from Trackman Properties LLC for request of voluntary annexing of territory designating the comprehensive plan land use designation for said territories industrial, designated M2 light industrial district zoning for said property, and extending the boundary limits of said city to include the territory described as Lot 4, Block 1 of the Whitaker Addition known as 6378 South Interstate 35. And further located within Waco's extraterritorial jurisdiction. We did mail out the 38 notices on this one and had zero return. Planning Services does recommend approval of the annexation, land use designation, and zoning for the property.
Thank you. We'll open our public hearing on this item. Is the applicant or his or her representative here to speak tonight? Is there anyone here to speak in favor on this item? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? If you can come on down, state your name and address, and comments to the commission.
My name is William Taylor. I live at 6717 Coldwater Drive in the Sendero Springs Edition. I am also the HOA president of the Sendero Springs HOA. I have a few concerns that were brought up, some of the homeowners that we discussed. We talked about the egress from the entrance to the back of the subdivision. There is a large, there's a sign that says no large vehicles coming up and down that street. And so some of the concerns are that they are going to be using that street as an entrance. They are currently using that street as an entrance for construction, as a construction entrance sometimes. And there are large buildings that are placed back there. Some of their concerns are a sound barrier that might be something that the city could look at putting up, and I don't know if that's relevant to this necessarily, but that's just some of the concerns that we had with the city being on board with annexing this property. And maybe that's something that that the builder can do on the back side of that property is do some sound barrier, because it will be heavy construction, heavy, I take as tractors and things like that. And so there will be large vehicles pulling in and out at many different hours, and it is a highway, access. And then there will be lighting, and so we were worried about the lighting affecting the homeowners that are that back up. There's, I don't know, 20 or 25 homes that back up to that entire property. And then some sort of barrier for, we have been mowing that property for, I don't know, ever since I've lived in the neighborhood, 2009. And so we're just kind of concerned about that property being, taken care of on the backside as well. And then just general access to that entrance on the backside, the Vista View entrance on the backside, specifically not being used for heavy vehicles or any kind of entrance that will come off of the backside of that entrance for them to have vehicles that use that driveway. Because there will be, sometimes people park on that driveway, that entrance there on the entrance to the back side of the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Taylor? Okay. This is specifically in regard to annexation of the land, but are y'all able to speak at all to any of the concerns, one way or the other, that Mr. Taylor has?
Sure. So I believe he's referring to Vista View, which is the street that connects to the frontage road into the subdivision. That is currently within the city limits, and so we will permit any access to that regardless of the annexation. So we can address concerns with that. Currently the property is outside the city limits, so a lot of the items he mentioned are land use regulations, which the city cannot incur currently because it's not within the city. They have already started construction, so there might be some of those items that cannot be addressed with this annexation, but we can definitely the annexation will allow us the opportunity to work more with the property owner to work to address some of the concerns, potentially address some of the concerns that have been raised.
Okay, including, I guess, screening and light direction, things like that would be pretty clear ones, I would imagine.
Correct.
To clarify, you're saying to help this gentleman address some of the, you have less power if we don't annex this?
Correct. Yeah, currently there's no zoning on that property, no permits required, except for where they're tying into city infrastructure that already exists. And so there will be some opportunity if it's annexed to work with that developer and maybe addressing some of their concerns.
Also, how would that affect city services? Would they be tying directly into our neighborhood? How would that work with like water, and would they be drawing off of our water supply, or is it a separate water supply, or?
So it will be served by city water, sewer, and again, Vista View, the city street. They are required to get permits to tap into those. And, part of that process is to determine, to make sure there are capacities there to serve both that development and not have any impact on the existing developments already there.
And do they back up on that river part that comes through there, or the creek that comes on the backside?
Are you speaking to the creek that's kind of to the
Black
north?
Creek, I believe it is.
No, it's on the other side.
Okay,
Yeah, it
sorry.
doesn't look like that, but.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to this item? Okay. If the applicant happens to be here, would you like to make any rebuttal? We'll close the public hearing. We do have a recommendation of approval for the request for annexation from city staff. Unless we have further discussion, we will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion that we recommend approval for this annexation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ramos, second by Mr. Browse. Any final discussion? Please poll the commission.
Browse,
Yes.
Briscoe,
Yes.
Embry,
Yes.
Fajardo,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Jefferson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
And for our final agenda item 16, I don't know if we have a recommendation from city staff, but if y'all present it, I suppose.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, this is a public hearing to consider a request for an honorary street name of Lester Gibson Way for a portion of Washington Avenue from University Parks Drive to 6th Street. We did mail all notices to all the property owners along that section of Washington Avenue and did not receive any responses back. Staff does recommend approval of this honorary street name.
Excellent. We'll open our public hearing on this item. Is the applicant or his or representative here to speak tonight? No. Please come on down, state your name and address, and any comments to the commission.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Edwards. I live at 2908 Columbus Avenue, Waco. And it is my privilege to speak on behalf of this resolution to honor Commissioner Lester Gibson. And I did want to recognize, because I don't believe they're going to speak tonight, but his wife and life partner, Kokui, are here, and his children, and other family members, and many of our other city friends and family are with us tonight that I did want to definitely recognize. My husband, former Congressman Chet Edwards, deeply admired Commissioner Gibson. They were close personal friends and political partners for well over 2 decades. I'd like to share just a few reasons why Chet and I admire Commissioner Gibson. First, he was a courageous civil rights trailblazer. While growing up in Texas during years of forced segregation, he attended and graduated from Baylor University. He became McLennan County's first ever African-American county commissioner, and he created and led the organization of Black County Commissioners of Texas. He wasn't just content to have titles. He used his positions to break racial barriers. Secondly, we admired and respected Commissioner Gibson because he fought hard for his constituents, and especially for minorities whose voices had far too long gone unheard. And what a voice he had. The booming voice was always used to persuade others that we are all God's children and should be treated as such. The Monday luncheons that Commissioner Gibson sponsored for years at the East Waco Community Center brought community leaders there to listen to the voices and concerns of East Waco citizens. The ideas for millions of dollars of federal funds to help redevelop Paul Quinn campus and millions more for Waco housing, job opportunities originated in Commissioner Gibson's office, often with now Commissioner Patricia Miller's taking part. Some public officials make a priority of not stepping on toes, but Chet respected Commissioner Gibson because he stepped on anyone's toes who got in his way for fighting for his constituents, and that included Chet's toes. And it was always for the right reasons. Third, Chet and I respected Lester Gibson because he was a military veteran. After serving our nation in Vietnam, he came home and committed the rest of his life to serving our community. When the Waco VA hospital was recommended for closure by the Bush 43 administration, Commissioner Gibson was a key voice in saving the hospital that took care of his fellow veterans and was the largest employer of minorities in McLennan County. For those reasons and so many more, Chet and I are grateful that you are considering honoring Commissioner Gibson by the honorary naming of Lester Gibson Way. How appropriate it is that these blocks of Washington Avenue going by the courthouse where our man from downtown gave so many years in service to our county. With your approval, years from now, long after we are gone, Lester Gibson Way will teach future generations about his trailblazing life of public service. He made a difference in his life, and you will make a difference by honoring his life. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the speaker? Or excellent. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in favor on this item? Anyone who would, you can come on down, state your name and address, and any comments you have.
Jeanette Bell, President of the Northeast Riverside Neighborhood Association, 228 Spring Street, Waco 76704. The Northeast Riverside Neighborhood Association mission is to preserve the quality of life, which includes historic and cultural preservation and promoting ethnic, cultural, and heritage tourism. The identity of a place consists of many elements, including the natural and built environments, commerce and industry, as well as public spaces and historic and civil structures. To retain and foster our civic identity, historic, cultural, social, and neighborhood character means managing these elements as we experience growth and change. Decades of experience of being involved in public meetings, focus groups, foreign studies, surveys, and work groups has made us realize that historic, cultural, social, and neighborhood preservation is good public policy and programming. It strengthens our identity of place, enhances our quality of life, and for any community, the preservation of historical and cultural and social and neighborhood resources teaches about the diversity of cultures in our communities, provides a sense of place, defines and protects local character, lifestyle, and identity, enhances recruitment efforts, reflects local values about neighborhoods and communities, past, present, and future, conserves natural and man-made resources, strengthens neighborhoods and communities, encourages civil pride and stewardship, provides an innovative approach to increase densities and serve as an alternative to urban sprawl. It revitalized central business and cultural districts. Historic, cultural, social, neighborhood preservation makes good sense. Therefore, the Northeast Riverside Neighborhood Association is recommending the naming of Washington Ave from University Park Drive to 6th Street as Lester Gibson Way because of the historic and social contributions that less honorable Commissioner Lester Gibson made to this community. So therefore, we recommend the naming of Washington Ave from University Park Drive to 6th Street as Lester Gibson Way.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else here to speak in favor on this item? You state your name and address.
Micah Davis, Pastor Second Missionary Baptist Church, address 8265 Teakwood, Woodway, Texas. It is my privilege to stand and support parts of Washington Avenue being named Lester Gibson Way. It is already stated of all the accomplishments of late Commissioner Gibson, which in and of itself merits consideration of this great honor. But another reason for having the street in his honor gives we who are pastors, mentors, teachers, and coaches of young people another tool that we can use to inspire them to be the next Lester Gibson and greater. When we pass through the area of Washington Avenue, I could say to a young person, do you know who Lester Gibson was? Likely, they may not know. And it will give me and others an excellent opportunity to tell some of his story and to say so many work with him to make the city, county, state, and nation better. The renaming can be a point of inspiration to say to youth, who we all agree need as much encouragement and standard models as we can get, that they can live the best life when they apply the good principles of Lester Gibson. Moreover, the commissioner was far more than a leader of African Americans. He was a leader for all people, no matter their ancestry. This is the message that we should send to our young people and all of us, that we should serve for the betterment of all people. Our actions should transcend race. We wouldn't be renaming the street for a black or African American man. We would be taking an action in honor of a good and decent man whose life work impacted all people. The renaming says Waco recognizes excellence, and our actions are bigger than any person's skin color. We can send this message to our young people. We can send this message to our entire city. When we travel Lester Gibson's way, it can be a reminder to all of us to do our part, make this world a better place. So I urge the commission to give us another positive tool with the renaming of Lester Gibson Way, so that each one of us in our ways, great and small, can be the next Our Man downtown. Micah 6:8 says, O man, what is good and what does the Lord require of thee? But to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. Lester Gibson did that, and when we see his sign, let it be an inspiration to all of us to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor on this item? Come on down and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Miller. I reside at 2032 King Cole Drive in Waco, 76705. Okay, just a second. I stand with those who have already come before you to request, or to thank you rather, for the affirmative recommendation on the agenda item E16. Romans 13:7 tells us that the Bible directs that we should give to everyone his due honor, respect, and reverence. And so, my phone doesn't ring. Your Wi-Fi doesn't like my phone. But however, render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, and honor to whom honor. We would be here all night if we were to stand before you and tell you of the accolades and the accomplishments of Commissioner Lester Gibson, a man that I worked for 23 years. And I'm glad with the recommendation coming from city staff that we don't have to go through that. But like has been said before, the generations after us will get to hear of those, and they won't be forgotten because you all are going through this at this time. And so I just want to thank you for the affirmative recommendation and also applaud you for the location of the renaming of where you're putting Lester Gibson Way. Commissioner Gibson was a man who worked to clean up Elm Street. In my younger days, he was the first person that I knew that put the names of men who visited Elm Street for women of ill repute. He put them in the paper, and thus he cleaned up Elm Street. And I know he was proud to see what Elm Street is turning into now. So as we come off of Elm Street, and then we enter into the Bridge of Understanding, which he used to always teach us the meaning behind the suspension bridge and why it was called the Bridge of Understanding. I know today that his children and his wife are proud that he gives that bridge a new meaning to the word understanding, a new dynamic, because it will no longer be a fear behind the word of understanding as much as an understanding of the man of whom he was. And so as you come off that bridge and you do pass by the city hall where he spent time as a District 1 City Council representative, and you continue to the courthouse where he spent 28 years as the county commissioner, then what you will also do if you ever were to enter into those doors is realize that he spent nearly a decade on a hanging tree mural that hung in the courthouse. The mural depicted a hanging tree standing between City Hall and the McLennan County Courthouse. There's a story behind it. You all can come to my office, we can have coffee, and I'll tell you about the lynching of Jesse Washington. I won't get into that. But knowing the history of that lynching and knowing the history behind that drawing, it caused him to spend nearly a decade putting a statement of atonement and apology in our courthouse, because he wanted everyone who came into that courthouse to feel invited, especially young people. And so I guess what really makes me feel proud of this moment is now when I look at, or anyone who visits that courthouse, when you look at that picture, you will know that the street on which those two buildings and that tree stand will now be called Lester Gibson Way. He gave almost half of his time as county commissioner to that mission because he wanted Waco, McLennan County, and the world to know that we're not that community from 1916. And what you all are doing tonight is going into the future and saying, we may not be where we need to be, but we're definitely not where we were, and we're definitely going in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak in favor tonight? Okay. I have to ask, is anyone here to speak in opposition on this item? Okay, we'll close our public hearing. We do have a recommendation from city staff for the honorary street naming of Lester Gibson Way. We will open it up for either discussion or a motion.
I do have a quick question before we take a motion, is that I know there's many of you out there. This is a bigger crowd than we usually get at our meetings, and not everyone gets the opportunity to speak, but I would like to ask if you're here in favor of this item, if you would just stand so that we could recognize you. Thank you very much.
I'm ready. Well, with all that's been said and the representation here tonight, it's an honor to make a motion to approve the honorary street naming of Lester Gibson Way for a portion of Washington Avenue from University Parks Drive to 6th Street.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Briscoe, second by Ms. Jefferson. Any final discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment, offer my sincere condolences to the family, and let you know that everybody in this community is going to feel the loss of Lester Gibson, and I'm honored to have the chance to vote on this item. Thank you.
Please poll the commission.
Rouse?
Yes.
Briscoe?
Yes.
Embry?
Yes.
Fajardo?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Jefferson? Lane?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All right. Well, that concludes our agenda. Congratulations. And we will adjourn our meeting for tonight.
People just get, cold stares. As long as you're nice,
I'll see you.